Hi, my name's Leslie. I ask for some healing energy to be sent to my family, sister, aunt, Rose, who we last saw her at a June, July, August birthday celebration that I have every year because mostly everyone is born in June, July, and August except for me and Kenneth. But she was very lively, she was active, she was dancing because we dance a lot at that celebration. Then she went in for a medical procedure and the anesthesiologist got it all wrong. And now she's in ICU. So we need some healing energy so that, she wakes up, and Rose, yes. I don't want to say the full name over the internet.
Thank you, Leslie.
Hey everybody, I'm Monica with the choir today, which is very exciting. So that's my joy to be able to sing with them again. And for my sorrow/well wishes, my dad has had some future health complications arise. We're not entirely sure what it entails yet, but if you can keep him in your thoughts. Thank you.
I'm Sandy Fulton. I've been a member here since 1997, and I don't think this is quite loud enough. No. I don't speak too loudly, so can you? Okay. Anyway, this is a day for Jameses. My goodness gracious, we had a beginning song, Wow James. I'm going to be reading from the Gospel of James in the New Testament, and James Earl Jones is in my mind, and I am very sorry for his death, although he was about my age. Ha! Anyway, my father, I'm celebrating his, let's see, he was born in 1899. How old would he be now? 125? Anyway, James Shepard Fulton, my father. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me? My name's Paul. I have a couple of things. First of all, as some of you know, I attended here and then left for a while, and certainly for no reason having to do with the community, but just with some things I needed to deal with. And so first of all, I just wanted to thank the people over that intervening time who have continued this community. So I have this place to come back to and to be welcomed back to. I really, really appreciate that. Secondly, a couple of things, difficult things going on right now for me. I have a friend of 50 years who is in probably her last stages of cancer, who I plan to go see in the middle of October. I meant to go in August and got COVID, so it's just sort of dragged the whole thing out, but I'm ready to go see her, and probably the last time I'll see her, although she has sort of defied the odds for about 10 or 12 years, so maybe I'll see her again. And then, unfortunately, then my older brother, who has been a real important person in my life, just went into hospice over the last couple of days, so that's been very difficult. But thank you again, and thank you for having this community here.
Good morning, I'm Jill. I put a big stone in the water because my sorrow is last week. At this time, I was attending the funeral service for Chazan Jack Kessler. Chazan is the Hebrew word for cantor. He was a very, very big presence. He was part of Germantown Jewish Center for 40 years. I knew him because he had a klezmer band, and when the occasion called for pop music and jazz, I sang with his band. He was just such a funny, warm, big person. His wife is Rabbi Marcia Prager, who is also dear to my heart. She officiated at my father's funeral. And what I didn't know, because I had not really been in touch with Jack for a lot of years, was that he had probably 20 to 25 cantorial students. They were like master class with him, and they were just all heartbroken, and the outpouring of love for him. And I know that his memory is a blessing for many. So, Jack Kessler.
Hi, I'm Jim Cohen. Can you hear that? No? Oh, now can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm Jim Cohen. I am happy to be back here again with you all. It's been quite some time since I've been able to come. There's a few things on my mind. Within the past 2 weeks, we lost our dear friend Chuck Lindsay, who was the drummer for the last 28 years with my swing band Beats Walkin'. And he was sort of the heart and soul of the band. He was from Asheville, North Carolina. We always said we hired him because we thought he said he was from Nashville. But we are many of us in the music community who know and love Chuck, who are missing him. And it reminds me to say a word about the people in Asheville who got hit really hard by this last storm, and many others up along the way as well. So you keep them in your thoughts as well. And then one other person I would like to ask for good vibes for is our own Gary Sobolo, who's having some challenges these days. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jean, and I would just like to ask for your thoughts and prayers for my cousin Carol, who's on the far end of hospice now. And I was visiting her in Minneapolis this last week, and it will be any moment now. And I was listening to some music this morning, and the poem was something about, let my love be heard. Let my love be heard. It was a beautiful choral piece. And I feel like somehow or other that speaks to her, for have her love be heard before she passes. So thank you.
Good morning, I'm Elizabeth Ann, and I wanted to lift up our sibling congregation in Chester Springs that for the first time are having a settled minister, and Reverend Lee Paxzula will be installed today.
Friends, I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your heart if you were here in the sanctuary or at home, and simply feel the breath coming in and out of your lungs, and feel your heart beating with that original rhythm of life and love that courses through all of our bodies, and that finds syncopation and rhythm when we are bound together in community, and helps us lift up these prayers, joys, sorrows, hopes, and dreams. We remember all those places in our community that are hurting, all those places in our world in need of a saving message of love, in need of harm reduction measures brought through democracy, through charity, through intensive relationship and the building of beloved community. We hold all of those joys and sorrows spoken out loud and those held in the quiet of our hearts. And as we think about the war-torn places in our world, and those places that have become war-torn because of greed or selfishness or disrespect for Mother Earth, we extend our love with a capital L here, from within these walls and out into that greater sanctuary of our world. And I'm going to invite Beth to add to this prayer with a reading.
Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living.
Amen.
Mother James.
Thank you. It's time for our Time for All Ages. So we'll have Elizabeth Ann back up here. Would you like to use this one, or do you want to be at the podium?
I'm Elizabeth Ann Terry, the Director of Religious Exploration here at this wonderful congregation. I use pronouns she, her, Elizabeth. And I'm so glad to be with you this morning. We're hearing a story about how we got our flaming chalice. How we got that flaming chalice. Unitarians and Universalists came together in 1961, but before that, the Unitarians and the Universalists were separate denominations in America. When World War II happened, we're talking the late 30s through the mid 40s in the last century, the Unitarians wanted to help people. They wanted to help people. And folks in Eastern Europe, Jews and gay people, and a whole range of people that the Nazis thought did not deserve to live. Like, you can boo and hiss if you want. Okay. Unitarians said, we've got to do something. But Eastern Europe, everybody didn't speak English, right? So then, guess what happened? They came up with a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Symbols are real important. We're going to look at a few of them first. McKinley, what's that symbol? Okay, it's Red October. And this darling pair have two different ones. What's that one? Peace. Okay, and Candace has one that is a blue Star of David. If you see these things, you know what you're talking about. If you see this one, you know, you can recognize it as Christianity. So, Phillies, peace, Judaism, and Christianity. So they wanted to come up with a symbol so people knew they could come someplace and it would be safe. it would be safe. You know, like the flaming chalice, both parts of it are old, ancient, particularly in Roman culture and in Czechoslovakia. So the Unitarians based in Boston decided that they needed to have somebody go to Eastern Europe, and that person was Reverend Charles Joy. I love his name, Joy. Oh, I would like that name, Joy. So he was based in Portugal, and he had helped somebody, an artist, get out of Paris. This man's name was Hans Deutsch. And he, like, you know, how artists do, like he had a mock-up, he drew it and talked with people, and then a flaming chalice. Some people talk about it, it's like a candle in a martini glass. That's like one way of thinking about it. But those symbols of flame, of hope and courage, and the container of the chalice, which can have a lot of different forms. So it's about hope and courage. Of course, at the center is love. But it's about helping people. When the Unitarians and Universalists joined together in 1961, that became the symbol. And it has changed a little bit over time, but what remains is a cup, a sacred holy cup, and a sacred holy flame. People who were trying to escape the Nazis, if they saw, I want you to, in your imagination, think about what a chalice looks like, and each and every one of you is right. That's what it means to you. Hope, courage, love, helping people. Isn't that what we are as Unitarian Universalists? Okay, thank you.
Can we all say together, amen?
Amen.
We're
I can
going to
help you up. I have no shame about needing help.
Thank you.
We're going to invite our children of all ages who want to attend our gathering downstairs with Elizabeth Ann. We have a song that we sing when those folks leave. So I'm going to invite us to sing it now, even if folks are not leaving. If you know the words, they should be on the screen. I invite you to sing along.
As you leave this place, know that you belong. Know that you are not alone. Know that you
are
loved.
Thank you. Invite Rita Fitzgerald forward to read the instructions for our offering.
Feeling very creaky today. Okay. Now's the time that we share our offering of both money and music. These resources are for the nurturing of this community. Because we know that there are many ways to give back to this congregation, if this is your first time with us, there's no expectation that you give anything other than a yellow contact form or letting us know how you found us and how we can support you. For those, of course, who want to give back in other ways, we encourage you to find a way that works for you. Your time and energy are just as valuable to us as your dollars and cents. But the dollars and cents are very valuable too. For those who do choose to give financially, your money and checks put in the plate today will be used to fund the operation of the congregation. Any pocket change, doesn't have to be pocket change though, or other money that you designate for change online by putting them in the white envelopes in the pews will be sent to this month's selected Change for Change organization, Beacon Community Theater Players. More information is on your screen about how to give online, and anyone can use the mobile app Vanco Mile. The plate will now be gratefully accepted, and our offering of music, spoken word, and stillness will be given in return. Offering will now be taken. Okay.
Thank you. I'll take those.
Okay.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, in last week's service, can everybody hear me? Okay. Okay. Is that good now? Can you hear me? Thank you. Okay, well, I project anyway. At last week's service, which was ably led by McKinley and Steve, we addressed the first half of a two-part question. Can you be spiritual but not religious? You've heard that before. And this week, McKinley and I will address the flip side of that question, which is, can you be religious and not spiritual? More specifically, can you be religious and not spiritual, or religious and spiritual? Well, my first reaction to that was, well, yeah. I mean, that's an easy one. If any place you'll find that sentiment, I'm spiritual but not religious, it would be in a UU church. So that's the kind of spiritual laid-backness, I guess, that we're comfortable with. It's exactly the opposite of what you would find in a more fundamentalist church, or a mosque or synagogue. They might scoff at that assertion because they're very proudly religious. Being religious means lots of God talk, lots of rules and commandments, dogma, lots of shouldn'ts. But religious and not spiritual, I don't know. Could we even claim the term religious? Sounds like a synonym for pious. And if it's one thing that I don't think we are or we like to be, it's pious. How about if we said we were spiritual as well? You know, saying that you're spiritual but not you're religious but not spiritual, as I said, doesn't sound you at all. It's rather like saying that you're somebody who just accepts the given dogma without question and doesn't even bother to ask themselves how it fits into the larger spiritual reality. Someone who tends to be a follower, an unquestioning follower, a little slow perhaps, certainly not the thinking types that we find here in UU congregations. No, the typical UU is a type of person who gives rise to jokes such as, it's not true, but it's a joke. Why UUs can't sing well in choirs, and you've heard that one, it's because they're always reading ahead to see if they agree with the next line. And there's a lot of people that don't think of us quite exactly a religion. It's a charge that's been leveled to us before. You know, it's the old God thing, or lack thereof. Why they say things like, why in this church you don't even mention Jesus or God at all? You can believe anything you want. Is that true? No. A few years ago, there was actually a movement by some people on the right, as if they could talk, about losing our 501c3 tax-exempt status for not having God in our, you know, that we're not a church, not having God as part of the tenets. And of course, here they are, totally violating the stricture on, you know, not getting too political, you know, they're blurring the line. They didn't succeed, but, and there's, you know, again, a lot of jokes about that. I guess because we're a safe target, small church, a lot of these jokes are actually passed around by UUs themselves. One goes, well, if UUs don't believe in God, then who do they pray to? And the answer is, to whom it may concern. So I had my work cut out with me. I did some research. For starters, not all religions, major religions, have a deity at the center, not by a long shot. You have Buddhism, Taoism, Jainism, Confucianism. Basically, most of the Eastern religions are godless. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's not central the way it is in the Abrahamic religions of, you know, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But, you know, when I really thought about it, I came to the conclusion that, guess what? UUism could be, I'm not saying that we're not spiritual, the most religious of all, with or without the spiritual dimensions. Here's why. If we go back to the traditional definition of religious, you know, you'll find that it's a person that, you know, believes in God, that deity is the center of their belief, et cetera, et cetera. But there's another definition, and it's kind of more modern, and that is basically following strictly a precept. Like we even use it like I'm very religious about, you know, following an exercise program, but it means it's like a zealot, somebody who's very fierce about that. The commandments example, just to show you the difference, are central to Abrahamic religions. Duties and restrictions, they're fine, what you can do, what you can't do. But essentially, they are between the individual and God, the first three, right? And the individual and their neighbor, say. But they don't really talk very much about the larger society and the need or obligation to do anything. It accepts the status quo. They don't question the structure of society. Some people are slaves. Yeah, okay, so what? Some people, you know. Example. Rape was actually, at that time, was a property crime against the husband. Had nothing to do with the rights of the woman. It was a property crime. That's the kind of era that, in which they were constructed. But today, even the most rigid person, even the most orthodox person of any of those Abrahamic religions would not accept that, because we've changed, we've evolved over the centuries. We don't, even a fundamentalist Christian is not going to look at things the same way. That's important. Things evolve. Religions evolve, even if they don't admit it. They have to. What about crimes left out of the Ten Commandments? You know, I'm emphasizing, not that there's anything wrong with the Ten Commandments, but I'm emphasizing, you know, because you have people, places tacking the Ten Commandments on the walls of schools, you know, we don't follow them, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why I'm pointing them out, that it's not the whole bowl of wax. It's the beginning, but it's not the whole thing. Do not steal. How about stealing a whole country? They're very narrow in the range of sins that they condemn. And because of the narrowness, they alone, without relationship and responsibility to a larger world, just cannot assist in the creation of the, I think, this is my opinion, McKinley told me to emphasize this, creation of the beloved community. Where in the Ten Commandments is the individual tasked with helping to build a community free of slavery, genocide, colonialism, waging wars, human rights? The inherent right of a person to be free, the inherent right of a person, that's not in the Ten Commandments. That's a good starting point. Protecting the environment, the planet. These important values were accepted later. We accept them. They're gifts, tolerance, reason, tolerance, and equity. They're gifts of the Enlightenment, which is the foundation of this church. And they're accepted. That's why they're enlightened. I'll give you an example. At the time of the commandment, slavery was just an institution. Now, there's no place in the world where someone would admit that that is okay. I'm not saying it's not practiced, but it's a sea change. I'm not knocking them, the Ten Commandments, but they're not enough. I think UUism is evolving very much towards a much taller order for people. And this is why I say the religious. It's not enough to say, well, you know, I'm not going to do a crime against this person, but not doing anything to change the situation. It would be kind of like maybe a white person living in the South, like before the Civil War, before the 60s, civil rights movement saying, well, you know, I have, you know, colored friends or colored acquaintances, and I treat them okay, but feeling that they had no obligation whatsoever to actually change the system. I think in Unitarian Universalism is evolving. I'm proud to say this, I hope, that we are talking about you need to change the system. It's a much taller order. And I think, so in answer to the burning question, can a UU be religious by following the principles of our faith, including our responsibilities to the larger community, without necessarily believing in a higher power? Well, I'd have to say, after 22 years as a UU, and in my not so humble opinion, the answer is absolutely. That's it. We are. We're spiritual and religious, and religion and spiritual, and take that, everybody. Thank you. Okay, I think we have a reading now. Sandy, thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I started out Methodist. I was christened Methodist, I was baptized Methodist, and I might have stayed Methodist if we'd stayed in the Midwest, since many church members there were active in opposing Senator Joe McCarthy, who was accusing the nationally respected Methodist Bishop of Chicago of being communist. But my dad's company moved us to Florida, where Protestantism, all the churches I attended to see what they were like, were very much based on white supremacy and anti-Semitism. So in 11th grade, when I was 17 years old, I quit. And in my diary, I wrote that I wanted better than a church where parishioners claimed they were Christian. I wanted one that performed acts of love and justice. 4 years later, I chose the College Unitarian Fellowship, just before we got arrested for activism. Oh, and I knew when we were arrested that I'd found my religion. Now, you can see at my age that I've stuck around a little while. Now I would like to read one of my favorite Bible quotes. And this is from either you can call it the Epistle of James or the Gospel of James. It's the entire and very small chapter 2. It's in the hymnal as number 668. But I want to read it. These are different words. This is more modern. What good is it if you say you have faith, but do not have works? Can faith save you? If a sibling is naked and lacks daily bread, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm, and eat your fill," and yet you do not supply their bodily needs, what's the good of that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. Thank you. Amen.
Invite our choir forward to share their message.
This is Both Sides Now, originally by Joni Mitchell, arranged by John
Thank you, choir. Thank you, Anam. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love. My mother and my sister are Episcopalian. If you know anything about that tradition, it looks a little bit different than what we do, but not a whole lot different sometimes. The dresses are a lot prettier on their clergy, and ritual is very, very big in the Episcopal Church. So we once had a sermon from a very elderly priest. He was 93 and still working, and he started his homily once by saying, "I've heard about the trend of being spiritual and not religious. I am religious, but I am not spiritual." And what he meant was, and I think what we often think of when we talk about religion, right, is that he was about gathering in community that had a shared understanding, shared values, shared movements, shared practices, right? That it was not about an individualized faith or spirituality. He was about community, and he was about ritual and routine, which we often talk about when we talk about religion with a capital R. So as Rita has brought up, what we're trying to share is that we don't think or believe that religion necessarily means belief in something supernatural or some sort of higher power. In fact, one of my favorite definitions of religion with a capital R, or to be religious, comes from the Humanist Manifesto from 1933. This was a group of atheists, agnostic humanists, scholars, and some ministers who wrote down this manifesto in the era of the burgeoning in-between the World Wars era. They saw what had happened in World War I, and they wanted to respond to it without a need for God with a capital G. So they wrote this beautiful manifesto, and in it they used the language of religion is loyalty to life. Loyalty to life. There was one theist, at least, who signed that Humanist Manifesto. He was a Universalist. His name was Clinton Lee Scott, and he was the minister of this congregation. Not at that time, but later in his career. He was the minister here. Religion is a loyalty to life. Those Humanist manifestos inspired Unitarian Universalism, and it inspired another great Unitarian Universalist thinker whose name was Forrest Church. He was a minister in New York City. And he talked about religion being our human response to the fact that we are alive and that we have to die. And that religion is the response to that duality of being alive and having to die. And it was that finality of life, the finiteness of life, that imported meaning into life, that gave religion its power and process, that made the ritual and routine important to people. And I know for me that it is that finiteness that also makes everything spiritual. That everything we do as human beings is spiritual. When we walk through the rain and feel it on our face, when we listen to the birds in the trees, when we lay down on a soft bed or on the hard ground, that everything we do is spiritual. Every conversation with a stranger is a chance to entertain angels. That every good deed is a chance to bend the arc of justice. That breathing deeply and eating chocolate and laughing by the fireside is all spiritual. And it's also all religious with a capital R. My deep-seated belief is that everyone is both inherently spiritual because everything is spiritual, and that everyone is religious with a capital R. Because to be human is to be alive and have to die. And that we are primed towards community, towards connection, towards creation. That is our natural impulse, right? That started way back when we were crawling out of the muck and forming communities for as long as humanity can remember. That being together meant safety. That being together meant structure. And that being together meant sometimes you get on each other's nerves. And it was religion that was part of the forming of those communities and how we interact with one another that gave us rituals and routines for how to do life. That it was not just about belief in something supernatural. It was about acknowledging our relationship with something outside of ourselves, something greater than, something bigger than. Maybe that's God with a capital G. Maybe it's your community, your family. It is not about belief, but it's more like gravity. It doesn't matter if you believe in it. It's going to affect you. When I read Theodore Parker's words, may our religion be like sunshine which goes everywhere. Right? It's a beautiful metaphor, and I would love to update it to may our religion be more like gravity, which affects everything at all times and all places, and is one of those most mysterious and powerful forces. And between gravity and love, I don't know which is the better metaphor for our religion, but I do like these words called impassioned clay. This is also in our hymnal. Deep in ourselves resides the religious impulse. Out of the passions of our clay, it rises. We have religion when we stop deluding ourselves that we are self-sufficient, self-sustaining, self-derived. We have religion when we hold some hope beyond the present, some self-respect beyond our failures. We have religion when our hearts are capable of leaping up at beauty, when our nerves are edged by some dream in the heart. We have religion when we have an abiding gratitude for all that we have received, and we have religion when we look upon people with all their failings and still find in them some good. When we look beyond people to the grandeur in nature and to the purpose in our own heart. We have religion when we have done all that we can and then in confidence entrust ourselves to the life that is larger than ourselves. The words from Ralph Helverson. That loyalty to life that is larger than ourselves. Last week we talked about spirituality and dark matter in the universe. So if you've not heard that one, I invite you to go back and listen to it. But this week we're not talking about dark matter, but we are talking about the origins of the universe. So I want you to go back in time with me, 13.8 trillion years, to when all matter in the universe was in something called the singularity. Before the Big Bang, this great explosion of light and energy and gravity and perhaps even love that sent everything streaming out into the cosmos, onward and upward forever. Before that, the theory is that everything that is now, all of the atoms that make up the stars and all the atoms that make up you and me, was all together in this one very tightly bound ball of mass. One single thing. And that all matter, ever since then, has been finding a way to reconnect. That our impulse to create community and beauty and to connect with one another is deeper than a religious or spiritual belief. It's at the very foundations of everything that is. To be reconnected. Matter recognizing matter, atoms recognizing atoms and saying, oh, I remember you. To be reconnected. The ligaments rejoined together. Re-ligament. Religion. Did you know that's where we get that word? It means to be reconnected. Friends, we are drawn towards togetherness to make something larger than ourselves from our very foundations. When we come together in UU spaces and we lift up these central guiding values of justice, equity, transformation, interdependence, generosity, and pluralism, when we share those truths that love is at the center of all that we do, not only are we being spiritual, we're being religious. We're doing religion. We're getting religion, if you're familiar with that language. when we live into our deepest values that connect and create, that remind us of our loyalty to life with a capital L, we're doing religion with a capital R because of this great love with a capital L that is at the center of all that is. So when I talk about being spiritual or religious, I'm not asking you to claim to be spiritual if you're not. I'm not asking you to believe in religion with a capital R if you don't. But I am asking you to have some loyalty to life and to be open to something outside of yourself, because I think that's your natural impulse. And I'm not telling you that you are spiritual or religious if you think you're not, but I am going to treat you as though you are. Because I believe that to be loved and worthy of love is to be a spiritual being, and to be human is to be religious. It is fundamental as breathing to us, to find connections to something outside of ourselves. And I confess that loyalty to life and a desire to nurture wholeness in myself and in this community. And I hope and pray that that be so, because God knows the world needs it. Amen. And invite us to take a second and just breathe into these words. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, which like gravity binds us together, and which like love holds us onward and upward forever. May it be so. Amen. I invite Rita forward to extinguish our chalice as we get ready to end our time together today.
As we get ready to extinguish our chalice and end our time together this morning, please remember to stick around for announcements in the slides and downstairs during coffee hour. Folks on Zoom are invited to check in with each other afterwards. For more information, what's going on in the life of the congregation, you can check the weekly newsletter. It comes out on Thursdays, or you can peruse the insert in your order of service. Finally, check out our website and social media pages for more important updates. The words to extinguish our chalice are adapted from Emily Richards. I'll read them aloud, and I invite you to listen along and extinguish your chalice if you're at home, as we do here in the sanctuary.
Rita, you're going to read the one voice, and we are invited to read the all part.
Okay. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about what you would want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction. Until our closing hymn is 131, Love Will Guide Us. We invite you to stand in body, rise in spirit as we sing the hymn together.
Thank you, friends. May that love that is at the center of all of this be at the center of all of this. And may it guide us out into the world to transform everything that needs to be transformed. May we go forth in peace and in love. May it be so, friends. Amen. Have a good week.